day that found many hours of preparation going into the final big event.
And now we see that copters are approaching from the southeast, and in all probability, here comes one of the copters now, and located in the southeast section. The Marine Corps people are moving out on the field to direct this landing of the copter, and in all probability, it is the President of the United States. His pilot, the presidential pilot, Colonel Walt Cinco, who will be attempting to grease it on here this morning, and he probably will do so because he is top flight, and he's right in there. So he'll be moving the helicopter coming in from the south end of the field here at the stadium. The copter now is lost to our sight momentarily, but it is down behind the homes and the scoreboard at the southeast end of the field here at Fort Hill Stadium. You'll hear a tremendous roar go up from these folks after the copter lands. We won't be able to say a whole lot when this copter comes in because it really makes a tremendous amount of noise. So we'll take it as long as we figure that you'll be able to hear us. Here it comes now, shooting up over the end of the field, and this is Colonel Walt Cinco bringing in the VH-3A helicopter, and now we see another copter coming in from the southeast, so maybe this one is not the one that is carrying the President, but we know that he is in one of these helicopters coming in. A beautiful landing occurring right now at about the 50-yard line, and some of the signs now that some of these young people spent many hours taking care of and putting together, well, they are no more as they went sailing skyward from the big blast from the helicopter. We understand these jet copters, the interior, you can talk in just a normal tone, and these are some of the other members, I believe, of the White House Press Corps, and also the White House photographers and so forth. And they'll be moving in and taking over on some of these things. We thought that all of the press people had arrived earlier, but that's not the case. These jet copters, and they're very beautiful. U.S. Marine Corps VH-3As. Now another copter coming in right over the end of the field. And boy, they come in low to the ground, almost tipping the tops of these trees. But all three of these copters will land. Here comes the third one now. So one of these three, the door will open, the runway will be put down to the ground, and we'll see President Lyndon B. Johnson and his copter stop, 1964, the visit to the Queen City of the Alleghenies in Cumberland, Maryland. The dust now sailing high into the air, a tremendous noise, and I think that you can continue to hear us. We're going to hold on to this particular thing right now. Here comes the one copter, and this, I believe, is the President's copter. Coming, yes, the presidential seal is right here. Here's paper and everything flying, flowers. But this is to be expected. And Mr. Johnson will step out of the helicopter. Here's the third one coming in now. And they're all three landing here on the football field at Fort Hill Stadium. A tremendous amount of noise, but not as much as some of the other copters. These Marine copters. And we want to say hello and salute Colonel Walt Cinco for the very fine job that he had coming in on this, bringing the President into the stadium, the presidential pilot, and he really greased it on. And it looks real fine. The blades of the copter still turning. The crowd very expectant now for the doors to be opened and the members of the official White House party will be climbing out. Now here comes the doorway down. Moving in is Mr. Marty Underwood, the protocol man during this visit by the President to Cumberland. Attorney General Tom Finan. We have Congressman Mac Mathias. Here's Lynda Bird, and here's President Lyndon B. Johnson. And let's try to see if we can pick up some of this crowd noise. It'll be pretty difficult to do over top the noise of these helicopter blades. Pat, this is a very impressive sight.
Certainly is, Chad. Very impressive indeed, and something that I haven't had the privilege of seeing before, and I am really impressed by it, very much. We have Senator Bell now shaking hands with the reception line, and maybe you can point out some of the other people there.
Well, Senator Mills coming down, Secretary Calabrese, there's Mr. Willard Wirtz. Here's Hail to the Chief, the 40-O Band, and President Lyndon B. Johnson. Mr. Johnson is moving into the speaker's area now, his podium to our right with the presidential seal, where he will give us some few brief remarks. He'll be moving down the receiving line, a very beautiful bouquet of yellow roses being presented to Lynda Bird, Miss Johnson, the 20-year-old daughter of the president. Mr. Johnson looking very tan, very healthy looking, big smile on his face as he moves down the receiving line, and he will take the opportunity to say hello, just a brief hello to many of the dignitaries of the area before he moves into the speaker's stand to continue with what he has to say. But a tremendous crowd on hand here, and from all indications, this would have to be, as far as I'm concerned, since I've been here the 12 years, about the biggest crowd that we've had in this stadium area. So Mr. Johnson, President Johnson, moving down the line, shaking hands now with Reverend Richardson. Attorney General Finan is leading the way and introducing the president to the folks of the area and vice versa. And he will move on down to the speaker's platform, and then we will hear the remarks by the President of the United States on the first stop in a 5-state, 2-day tour of the Appalachia area. So several of the dignitaries now are continuing to move down the line, shaking hands, big smiles, and this certainly must be a tremendous thrill for many of these people to shake hands with the president. We had a near opportunity some 3 weeks ago in Washington at the Foreign Policy Conference as the president in the Rose Garden came down through the crowd toward us, but at the last moment he veered to the left and then went back up to the speaker's stand. So we see White House Press Secretary George Reedy off to our right, and the famous haircut that they talked about of some 3 weeks ago. The hair seems to be growing back out and presenting that great batch of silvery hair. But he has been a very busy person, and he will be moving along with the presidential party all the way through the area, all these visits, and the great amount of work that goes into just an hour and a half visit by the president to the city of Cumberland. You just would never realize how much work goes into preparing for a visit by the president. Pat?
That's what I was just going to comment, Chad. It's remarkable to me. You don't realize exactly the amount of work that goes into something like this, and the various security measures that are taken, and of course, to ensure the safety of the president. And he will be here, I assume, for about 17 after 9. He should be here about another hour. Is that correct?
That's right. They say they hope to have him airborne at 10:30.
And from here, he will go on to Martinsburg, West Virginia.
Martinsburg, then to Ohio in the presidential jet.
Attorney General Finan.
Attorney General Finan now is on the speaker's platform, and we'll pick up his remarks, and then we will be hearing from the president, Mr. Lyndon B. Johnson. Here's Attorney General Finan.
Fellow citizens, it is with a deep sense of privilege that I welcome today to our scenic mountain in this Appalachian area the beautiful and gracious daughter of the nation's most distinguished father. She is here today standing in for her charming mother, the First Lady of the land, and this young lady is probably one of the few persons in this country who may on occasions even talk back to the President of the United States and get away with it. And noting her charm, it is quite understandable. May I present to you the daughter of the President of the United States, Miss Lynda Bird Johnson.
I want to thank you for letting me be here. And I want to clarify a point. I hope you are all out of school. but several people have already made complaints about my father signing an education bill, and I'm not in school today. And I wanted to clarify the point that I thought I was getting a cram course in economics, in sociology, in history, and geography. Or less to say, physical fitness, trying to keep up with my father. And I'm glad to be here and meet all of you people and have the opportunity of seeing you and seeing your problems. Thank you very much for letting me come.
That's Lynda Bird Johnson.
That was certainly very excellent and very sweetly done, Miss Johnson. In the history of Cumberland and Allegheny County, we have had a number of presidents who have passed through our community. However, only 3 presidents of the United States have favored us with official visits. The first was President George Washington in 1794, when he reviewed the troops here during the Whiskey Rebellion. The second occasion was President Benjamin Harrison in 1889 during Allegheny County's centennial. And the third occasion is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to present the President of the United States. My fellow Americans, General Finan, I appreciate so much this warm welcome from these good people. Senator Brewster and Senator Bell, who rode down with me, told me what I could expect, but I can't believe this until I see it with my own eyes. I'm happy to be here this morning with the distinguished Attorney General of Maryland and Congressman Sickles and Congressman Mathias. It may be true that George Washington and Benjamin Harrison preceded me, but they didn't bring their cabinet with them, and I did. I have with me this morning the distinguished Secretary of Agriculture, Mr. Orwell Freeman. The distinguished Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, Mr. Anthony Celebrezzi. The distinguished Secretary of Labor, Mr. Willard Wirtz. The Undersecretary of Commerce, representing Secretary Hodges, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Jr. Mr. Robert Weaver, the head of the Housing and Home Finance Agency. And Mr. Aubrey Wagner, the head of the Tennessee Valley Authority, who will be traveling with us throughout the Appalachia Territory all day. Mr. Wagner. Now, we came to learn and to listen, to see and to evolve a program that will help the old line state of Maryland. We are here to talk with you as well as to you. I have already learned that your senators think that if we do a little work on the Bloomington Dam, that we would attract a great deal of industry, create more jobs, provide a water supply for our nation's capital, and a great deal of happiness for Cumberland. We will explore that possibility very carefully and see if we can get something going on that. Since our time is limited and I have another appearance to make downtown, I think I shall conclude by telling you of the disappointment of one of my friends riding in the helicopter with me this morning. He said that he understood that lightning struck Miss Johnson's plane twice the other day on her way to Ohio, and that finally got her back to riding with me again. and they wondered why she couldn't ride with me today. Well, I'll tell you, it's only because she had a previous engagement that she could not break. She said to me this morning, "You tell the people of Cumberland that I'm sorry I won't be with you. While you're trying to preserve the country, I'll be here meeting with the committee to preserve the White House." I hope that she may be able to come back with me if I get to visit here again between now and November. Thank all of you for coming out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States has given his remarks here at the stadium. Our crew will be moving out now, moving to the sound truck on a rapid tour through the city of Cumberland to get all set up. We will remain on hand here to kind of talk through the situation until things can be set up down at City Hall, where the President will give another talk. We will be calling in Doc Webster from the Employment Office, and he will be reporting on the President's stop in that area. The President will be there to talk with some of the people and all the other folks who will be in the Employment Office, the people employed there, and Doc will give us a report on that. But it has certainly been a great day for all of the folks here, as Mr. Johnson now has moved out of the area into the motorcade and will be moving downtown. Lieutenant Gordon Height of the Cumberland Police Department in the lead vehicle, Lieutenant Massey of the Maryland State Police in the second vehicle, and now we have several of the Secret Service men jumping on. We have the presidential car moving out of the stadium area now. We'll turn right on Greenway Avenue, continue down to William Street, turn left on William Street to Louisiana Avenue, down Louisiana Avenue to Maryland Avenue, right on Maryland to Harrison Street, down Harrison Street to Park Street, right on Park to Baltimore, down Baltimore Street to Center Street. The motorcade will then continue up Center Street to Smith Street, where it will turn left, then to North Mechanic Street. Left at North Mechanic Street, back to the area where the President will say hello to the people down at the Department of Employment Security. The WTBO van now is moving out, and will be moving on downtown and set up down below. Our anchorman for this entire broadcast is Mr. Dick Brooks back at the studio, and Dick will be switching us back and forth, but we'll be holding on here momentarily until the van, our sound system, gets down to City Hall Plaza, where they will be getting set up to bring you all of the great amount of happiness and joy and smiles and so forth that is occurring at the plaza.
Sir, it's Pat Corrado in the WTBO mobile studio, and we switch to Pat right now.
Thank you very much, Dick. This is Pat Corrado speaking from the City Hall Plaza, and we're broadcasting from our WTBO mobile news unit. Our vantage point is directly in front of the fire department here on top of our mobile news studio, and we have a very, very good vantage point from where we're situated. We can see the entire plaza here, and many, many thousands of people have turned out here in Cumberland to greet President Lyndon B. Johnson. And I'm all out of breath because I had to climb on top of the truck here. So excuse me for just a moment while I catch my breath. We had well, of course, as we told you on our earlier broadcast, we had to use the WTBO sound system from our mobile unit at Fort Hill Stadium. After a failure there, and we picked up the ceremonies there, including President Johnson's remarks, and then immediately following the President's remarks at the stadium, we hopped aboard our mobile news unit once again, and I think we were about the last car in the motorcade coming to the downtown area. We didn't have encounter too much difficulty getting downtown, but as we came through the downtown area, many people lined the streets to say hello to President Lyndon B. Johnson. Now, at the moment, the president has not yet arrived here at the City Hall Plaza. Of course, the motorcade went. The next stop was the Maryland Department of Unemployment Security, and he is now at the unemployment office. I would assume at the present time greeting the various workers there and the people who are signing up for the unemployment checks. Everything is in readiness here at City Hall, and momentarily we expect the president here. He was just about, I guess you might say, about 10 minutes late arriving at the stadium, and then his helicopter touched down on the turf at Fort Hill Stadium at about 12 minutes past 9. Then after a few brief remarks, about 3 or 4 minutes, the president then got in the motorcade, and believe me, they don't waste any time at all in whisking the president away from the stadium and then getting him to the downtown area. And as I say, at the moment, he is at the unemployment office. And momentarily, we should see President Johnson coming here to make a few more remarks and make a little speech here at City Hall. The speaker stand has been set up on the steps of City Hall. We are facing City Hall. As I said, we're right in front of the fire department here. In front of me is the Allegheny High School band and various other people. The mayors from the various communities in the tri-state area have been invited by Cumberland Mayor Earl D. Cheney to be on hand here in the greeting of President Johnson. And I see now the Mayor Cheney of Cumberland is directly in front of the speaker stand talking to some of the various dignitaries on hand here. This is the first leg of the president's second tour of the Appalachia region. Now the Allegheny High School Marching Band is going to strike up a number, so I don't think we can fight the band, so let's pick up the music.
Pat, we're going to cut away from the Plaza location for just a moment and switch to Doc Webster at the Unemployment Security Office. Doc?
Well, here the President of the United States, President Johnson, has arrived. He came in the door, and the very first place he stopped was at the long line here of the unemployed receiving their checks. The dignitaries off to the right had to take second choice. As a matter of fact, the President still hasn't gotten to our dignitaries. He is moved down the unemployment line, talking to men and women. Now he is going along a line of unemployed that have been seated, and he is sitting down and talking with these people and getting their points, their views, some of the questions. He's asking them, how long have you been unemployed? He's asked them, what had you worked? What was your business before? Did you work in the mines? Were you a farmer? How are the conditions around your particular area? These types of questions. He is surrounded, of course, by the gentlemen of his cabinet, especially in the labor force, to try to get, as he made the statement at the stadium, the answer, to learn here and try to come up with some kind of a solution for the Appalachia area. Then, of course, the dignitaries are lined up after he talks with the unemployed. He then will move in and shake hands with the dignitaries. Representatives of the unions as well as the industries are here. Mr. John Luke from West Virginia Pulp and Paper Mill is here. Mr. Gus Brust, also Mr. Alvin Lewis of Pittsburgh Plate Glass Union, the Pittsburgh or the Glass Workers Union. We have the unemployed, and incidentally, we'd like to point out that the office here, the unemployment office, is proceeding as usual under the conditions that exist, or as much as possible. The photographers are all over desks, up on chairs, trying to get the pictures. Meantime, the lines of the unemployment are still moving through, getting their checks and being signed out in the usual business manner as the President of the United States goes through the unemployment office down on North Mechanic Street here in Cumberland, Maryland. Now, when Mr. Johnson has a few words to say, we'll report on that, and then he will leave here and swing down to the City Hall where Pat Corrado will pick you up from that point on. This is Jim Webster here at the unemployment office in Cumberland.
Now let's go back to the City Hall area, and once again, here's Pat Corrado.
Thank you very much, Dick. Once again, at our vantage point atop our mobile news unit here at City Hall Plaza, the crowd is anxiously awaiting the appearance of President Lyndon B. Johnson here to make his remarks at City Hall. In brief remarks at the stadium, the president said that he came here to learn and also to listen and to evolve a program to help the state of Maryland. And he said he came here to talk with as well as to the people, and that seems to be true of wherever the president goes. He is known for, I thought we were going to fall off the mobile news unit. He is known for moving into a crowd and talking with the people. Well, the Allegheny High School band once again is striking up. I don't know whether you can hear me or not, but I guess we'll try to pick up some music here.
Now let's switch back to Doc Webster at the Unemployment Security Office.
The President of the United States has just left the Unemployment Security Office. He has just left this moment. He's going out and getting into his car. He will now go on to City Hall. He was questioned by leaders of industry and labor. Industry brought out several important things. First of all, a very important thing is the continued building of roads into this area to make it accessible to people and to industry. And number one priority was brought out and stressed the Bloomington Dam. And the third thing was vocational training for those who would have to be trained for industry. Now, President Johnson said, as he had stated at the stadium, that Senator Brewster, as well as Senator or Congressman Mathias, and Senator Bell had stressed the importance of the Bloomington Dam. And he said he felt sure that we were going to get some action on that here at the Unemployment Security Office. As the important things were brought out, the appreciation for the President's visit was stressed by both industry and management here. And now the President is on his way to the City Hall, and we'll pick you up down there with Pat Pareto.
All right, now let's switch back to Pat as the President's motorcade moves into the City Hall Plaza area.
Okay, Dick, thank you very much. We understand from Doc Webster at the Unemployment Office that the President is now on his way to the City Hall Plaza. And, well, things are about as ready as they can ever be. Everything is set up. People have been out here since about, I guess, 8 o'clock this morning. We got down here shortly after 8 o'clock. And at that particular time, many of the people from the surrounding area were getting real good vantage positions. Now we have a police car, one of the city police cars, making an appearance. And a couple of photographers and newsmen got out of the police car. Apparently, and here comes another police car, so it's apparent that here comes the presidential motorcade now. The presidential motorcade is moving into the City Hall Plaza area now. 3 police cars. Here comes the President of the United States. In the car with him, Attorney General Thomas B. Finan, and the Secret Service agents walking right alongside the cars. President Johnson in his limousine, moving up now and stopping directly in front of the speaker stand. The presidential seal is being put on the speaker stand. Now President Johnson emerges from the car, and listen to this hand. To the Chief now is being played by the Allegheny High School band. President Johnson moved over and greeted several students to the left of the speaker stand, and he was shaking hands with both hands with the students, getting in there, meeting the people. Now the President has still greeting the various local dignitaries now. He's in the receiving line. Off to our right, at the moment, President Johnson is greeting the various mayors from the surrounding communities, shaking hands with them, talking to them. Once again, more handshaking by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Now President Johnson is
moving toward the speaker's stand, acknowledging the round of applause that he was given here by this tremendous throng of people here at the City Hall Plaza. I hope we're coming through all right. The Allegheny High School marching band playing the Hail to the Chief. Now Lynda Bird Johnson is approaching the speaker's stand. Her father directly behind her. Lynda Bird.
Fellow citizens,
green dress.
have your attention. Fellow citizens, it is with a deep sense of privilege
Now the Attorney General.
that we welcome today to our scenic mountains in this Appalachian area the beautiful and gracious daughter of the nation's most distinguished father. She is here today standing in for her charming mother, the First Lady of the land, and this young lady is probably one of the few people in this country who, upon occasions, can talk back to the President of the United States and get away with it. However, noting her charm, it is quite understandable. May I present to you the daughter of the President of the United States, Miss Lynda Bird Johnson.
Thank you all for letting me come and meet you. My roommate before I left today said, "What is the purpose? Why are you going on this trip?" And I told her because I wanted to get out here and learn not from the books, but from the people who are making the things that are in those history books, those economic books that I'm reading about. And I'm so lucky to be here and see all of you and see what they're talking about when they talk about the Appalachia Plan and the problems of Cumberland and unemployment. And I just came from meeting some people who told us their problems and why they were unemployed. And I'm glad that I'm out here now so that I can see all you people. And I want to thank you so much for the wonderful reception you've given us. And God has been gracious to us, giving us such a pretty day. And you've been so very kind to give us such a wonderful welcome. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, Senator Bell and Brewster, the mayors from our local area, ladies and gentlemen, and citizens of Cumberland. I'm very proud this morning to have this opportunity to introduce the President of the United States. I'm very proud and happy also that there are more people in this area this morning than we have residents of Cumberland. There's probably 35,000 people here. I feel we are highly honored, the first time since 1789, and the first time in my recollections, to have a president at our City Hall. It's with a great pleasure I give you the President of the United States. Thank you.
Mayor and Miss Cheney, Senator Brewster, Senator Bell, Congressman Sickles, Congressman Mathias, my good friend Attorney General Tom Finan, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. They tell me other presidents have been here, but I don't think any of them brought along most of their cabinet. I want all of you boys and girls to have a chance to meet the cabinet that sits with me in the cabinet room in the White House in Washington. I first want to introduce Secretary Orwell Freeman, Secretary of Agriculture. Secretary Freeman. Next, I want to introduce Secretary Celebrezzi, Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare. Next, I want to introduce Secretary of Labor, Willard Wirtz. The Undersecretary of Commerce, representing Secretary Hodges, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Jr. the administrator of the Housing and Home Finance Agency, Mr. Robert Weaver. The head of the Tennessee Valley Authority that will be traveling with us in 5 states today, Mr. Aubrey Wagner. I asked these men to come here with me to see these problems and to see these people. They came because I asked them, and they came because we care. We not only want to know something about the problem, but we want to do something about it. For many years I have heard Maryland called the Old Line State. Not until this week did I know that it got that name because of the courageous service of the Maryland line that was under fire during the American Revolution. That revolution is not over. Lynda Bird told you something about the revolution that is just beginning with our Appalachia program and with our poverty program. So we begin to fight to finish in the 20th century what our forefathers started in the 18th. And Maryland, again today, as we meet here, is once again on the front line. Your courage, your will to fight are as needed now as they were then, and I think you've got just as much of it now as they had then. Ever since 1634, when the Ark and the Dove landed 200 settlers on your shores, Maryland has played a vital role in building America. Those pioneers were men with a cause. They had suffered from unjust government at home. They came to find justice in a new land. They came heedless of hazard, seeking new opportunity, new chance. Those who came later often differed in habits and in custom and in language and in religion. But they all came seeking a society that was free of the prejudices, the injustice, the rigid barriers to advancement, which had disturbed their lives in the old world. They came looking for freedom and tolerance, and that is what we look for today. They came looking for opportunity and abundance, and that is what we're trying to provide today. They came looking to free the human spirit from the bonds of the old society, which thought a man's birth and station more important than his ability and his dedication. They came looking for a government that they did not have to fear, because they wanted their government to be their own. They faced grave difficulties and dangers on these untamed shores. The Piedmont was a wild frontier, but they knew that though the hazards were high, the rewards were rich. From the wilderness they carved clearings, and they gave those clearings names which ring today with their fears and their toil. Trouble Enough was one of them. Scared from Home was another. All that's left and discontent. One Maryland farmer called his place, "I'm glad it is no worse." But they never lost sight of the desires which brought them across the Atlantic Ocean. In 1638, their representatives won the right to initiate legislation in the Maryland Assembly. This was a landmark in American history. No other colony had made a more dramatic effort to achieve self-government. And Maryland also became a fountainhead of religious freedom. In 1937, when Franklin D. Roosevelt Jr.'s father, the president, wrote congratulating Maryland, he said, "Its noble service in the cause of religious toleration." And in that letter he warned that we must recognize the fundamental rights of man. He wrote that letter because he knew that this was the state which has always fought for the rights of man. and that battle takes place on different fronts today than it did 300 years ago. Maryland and Marylanders must help to win it. Because that same spirit still lives in Maryland, I came here this morning to ask your help in carrying forward the American Revolution. In many ways, battles are even more difficult. Then the enemy was clear. Today, the enemies which menace our people are more complex. We are preparing to fight these enemies. Our first objective is to free 30 million Americans from the prison of poverty. Can you help us free these Americans from the prison of poverty? And if you can, let me hear your voices. We are going to do these things for those who are poor, aren't we? We are going to do it for those generations who will be condemned to poverty unless our generation provides a way out. And we are going to provide the way out, aren't we? President Franklin Roosevelt said, "It is not the pinch of suffering, the agony of uncertainty that the adults are now feeling that counts the most. It is the heritage our children must anticipate. The heritage they must anticipate. It is not just today that counts. Undernourishment, poor standards of living, inadequate medical care make themselves felt for 50 years or more. So the inadequacies of today will be felt in your life and in your children's lives 50 years from today. Here in Appalachia, one family in three lives on an income of less than $3,000. Here in Appalachia, the 60 population was a meager $1,400 a year in the per capita income. In the rest of the country, it was $1,900. Here in Appalachia, employment went down 1.5% between 50 and 60. In the rest of the country, it did not go down. It rose 15%. Here where you meet this morning, only 32 out of every 100 people finish high school. 5 out of every 100 finish college. More than 2 million people have migrated to join the unemployed in other places. But statistics do not tell the story. I know what poverty means to people. I have been unemployed. I have stayed waiting in an employment office, waiting for an assignment and a placement. I have signed shoes as a boy. I have worked on a highway crew from daylight until dark for a dollar, working with my hands and sweating with my brow. This has taught me the meaning of poverty and poor. It means waiting in a surplus food line rather than in a supermarket checkout. It means going without running water rather than worrying about whether you can afford a color television. It means despairing of finding work rather than wondering when you can take your vacation. It means coming home each night empty-handed to look at the expectant faces of your little children who lack the things that they need. It means a lonely battle to maintain pride and self-respect in a family that you cannot provide for, not because you don't want to, and not because you don't try to, but in a nation where so many seem to be doing so well, you seem to be finding it difficult. Poverty not only strikes at the needs of the body, it attacks the spirit and it undermines human dignity. It is not enough for the Congress to pass laws. We will not win our war against poverty until the conscience of the entire nation is aroused. We will not succeed until every citizen regards the suffering of neighbors as a call to action. We will not overcome until every child and every city and every town joins its parents and helps us to mobilize its resources. This can be done. And you can help do it. And you are going to do it, aren't you? We won the first American Revolution because we were a people in arms. We mobilized every resource of a new and weak country. Every citizen had a role to play in that revolution. In this way, we defeated a great empire. Today, America is richer and stronger. We have the resources and we have the knowledge to win this war. The battle will not be a spectacular one. It will consist of thousands of small efforts that add up to a vast national effort. For example, this week, just Tuesday, we approved a new program to train 50 machine tool operators here in Cumberland. These 50 men will have new skills and they will be put to work in local industry. 50 more men will have a chance for a decent wage and a productive job and a better family life. So they will leave the poverty. And let these 50 just be the beginning of what we're going to do for all America all the time. In this way, with small beginnings, do we move toward the great goal that Franklin Roosevelt set before us when he said, "The great objective we're demanding for the sake of every man, woman, and child in this country is a more abundant life." That is our objective today. We strive for this goal by attacking the causes of poverty, and that we're trying to give people more. We're not trying to give people more relief. We want to give people more opportunity, and that is what the people want. They want education and training. They want a job and a wage which will let them provide for their family. Above all, they want their children to escape the poverty which has afflicted them. They want, in short, to be part of a great nation. And that nation will never be great until all of you people are a part of it. So I came here to Maryland this morning, to this wonderful place and these smiling faces, this seedbed of American liberty. I came here to call upon the pioneer spirit which made this a free country. And from these hills again goes forth today a call to battle. This is the first appearance